repeat that? I'm just kidding.
Okay, so welcome. This is the Freeman Mastermind. This is 2026. It is February 3rd.
We made
Welcome,
it.
welcome, welcome. This is Adam. This is Bo. We already have some comments. So Lucas had a comment and he wants to know what are our thoughts on the restored republic. I'll go first. You can go second.
Sure.
We're not a republic. First of all. So I know it's a great concept. But again, it's an idea, and I know a lot of people have the idea of bringing the concept of a republic back. We're an empire. We're moving more and more towards an empire than ever before. So to restore a republic when the whole world is going to an empire, you'd have to crush the empire to restore the republic. And the question would be, who would want to do that? So I don't know how you've been following the Epstein files. Now, if you listen to what Epstein says, I really like the guy. Like, I think he's very intelligent.
Context.
And I think he's a very wise individual, and I can see why he was chosen to do what he did. But if you look at the context of some of his other emails, they are that we are Goyim. He used that exact term. So again, you guys all thought that they just called us that. No, there's real hardcore emails that there's actually a war of the Jews versus the Christians. So this Judeo-Christian, let's say, war propaganda
For sure,
is completely false. So the faster y'all realize that, the better. Okay, because the enemy within is a little bit stronger than the enemy without. At least, we don't necessarily know who that is. So for a republic to be,
you saw what happened when the guy asked him. He said, "Hey, are you the devil?" And he said, "I have a pretty good mirror." And he smiled. Anyway, so he thought he was the devil. Epstein did.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just fear. Like, there's no such thing as a devil.
Well, the devil's afraid of himself. I mean,
if you want to create it, yeah, it's just fear. So if people want to live in that and they want to harm each other through fear and misinformation, that's fine. So
there you go. So Epstein thought that he was fear incarnate.
Correct.
That's good.
Yeah, and that was his weapon of choice, which was fear, right? So he would
intimidation and
mainly fear, right? He would take little pieces of information that he had on people and try to blow it up into something else. And I would have to say that we all live on Epstein Island currently, meaning our republic is Epstein Island, where fear, the devil, is the one in control, which is Epstein, right? I mean, as far as like restoring the republic, the first thing you have to get back to do is get in control of your local. Okay. Because you can't have a republic when you got weak locals. And everybody's local is incredibly weak because all of the morality comes down from the schools, the churches, and the leadership. Okay. So you got schools, churches, and leadership. Some of that leadership is government based, meaning, in control of the brains. And right now we don't have any control of that. We have bad examples in schools, right? We have a system that was created by Epstein's girlfriends or his co-conspirators' father, who is part of this war that they created against us called Pergamon Press that makes all the school books and the textbooks that go into your school. Okay. Epstein was instilled into power by a Rockefeller. Okay. So this Rockefeller medicine, we got, let's say, bad examples from the hospitals, bad examples from the schools, bad examples from the churches, because they're all government churches and they're fools. And we've got, we've got police who will go out of their way to just say, I'm doing my job, sir. I'm just doing my job, ma'am. But you're harming people, right? Like, no, not one entity that we're stating there, which are all required to have an actual republic, right? You have to have good leaders to have a good republic. You have to have a compact with the people to have a republic. You can't be one of the hunted, right? Like, Bo, you had a recent experience in court recently. Would you like to talk to us about that and what you think about the republic as it stands,
So
or the
yeah.
empire as it stands,
So
and your
before I get into
experience with
that,
the judiciary?
let me
Yeah.
state this, that there were quite a few people that did reach out, probably to Adam as well, before David died. And not only did they have a similar question, but a lot of them were doing their own version of what a republic looks like. And
Mm.
which is, I mean, I have no issue with that. They have every right to do that. I mean, they can
Well,
create their own community. But this is what, and this actually the old, not old, but the most recent within the last 2 decades, there was a republic that was parallel to the one to the government, and it was headquartered right here in this great state of Minnesota. And unfortunately, a couple of the guys that were bringing uh, carload of gold, silver, Vietnamese dong, yen, the dinar, like the whole thing. They had it. They were ready to fund the republic, and so they had to bring it to, um, not Boston, Philadelphia, and they decided, hey, I've never been to Canada, so they went to Canada, and the Canadians did a whole breakout of their car and stole all the gold, all the silver, all the copper, all the money. There were uh, billions in notes, millions in U.S. dollars. I mean, it was the money to fund the whole of this republic, and David was a part of this, and but he took a back seat to this because he thought that they weren't doing it right. There's a different way of doing it. But anyways, so what happened was these guys got arrested, detained. That funding never happened, and that republic that was being formed in all 50 states, according to um, my friend, who she was the wife of the one who started it, who was the president, and he got arrested and he spent the rest of his life in jail for the most part. He may have gotten out, but by the time he got out, he was too sick, and the rest of his life was very um, uh, taken up by sickness and whatever else he was going through his life. And it was just a sad thing for their entire family. But I say that because just recently, within the past couple of years before David had passed, there were quite a few people that were reaching out. They were stating, "Hey, we're doing the republic. We're doing this here. We're doing this state and this state and this state, even in this great state." And the thing was, is that some of these states, they were having different republics that they were forming, and so I'm not discrediting what their heart is or what they were trying to do, but there was no true unification. It was
okay, but
all
even if there was, what you have to realize is that the United States is a corporation,
correct.
and uh, when you become an enemy of that state, which is under DC, the District of Columbia,
Mhm.
when you become an enemy of that, that would be when you try to form your own republic. So that's really what happens there. So anytime you go up against the corporation in any way, shape, or form, that's when you're going to meet resistance. So
Correct.
the obvious way, which we've talked about 100 times till Sunday, is to do it from the inside out. And there's some that have the moral fortitude to keep their morality when they go into those situations. Most don't. Most gets greedy
Mhm.
and stupid and makes really bad decisions. But some
Right.
some some can do it. The problem is there's not enough people stand up in those leadership roles, right? Like there's not
Right.
enough people in the ministry that actually do it because they work for God. Most of them do it because they work for Caesar, and it's a great way. They get like you know, a lot of great benefits to, toting the United States corporation flag.
Mhm.
So, you know, to say that
Yeah.
you're going to do it or anybody's going to do it, um, to even say that Trump is going to do it, there's a big corporation there, and we went into the trust workshop a little bit as
Right.
well, but there's a lot of things behind that trust that are behind that trust that are behind that trust, and then when you have all the warring that's going on that was so eloquently put in the Epstein files, let's say so transparently put that it could not be mistaken, especially someone at that level of power. Okay. He had an immense amount of power. And that's where most people like can't comprehend it because you've been mistaught. Like the whole thing, the leadership in schools, like every teacher there only gives a shit about their retirement program. Like, hey, well, what's my retirement program? What's the least amount I have to do to get through these kids to get to my retirement program? Okay.
Right.
Because if they told the truth, they wouldn't get there. If they actually started teaching truth from error and things that were, you know, right is versus wrong, that wouldn't happen. But the thing is, again, if you give your children to Caesar, expect Romans. So it's not even a wise thing to do. So, how does the Republic start? I would say if all people started to withdraw from the school system, if all people started to withdraw from the government church, if all people started to withdraw from the law enforcement system, meaning have a very good re-education program that comes from that school leadership and from that church leadership that realigns the Roman soldiers that thought they were protecting the republic for which it stands and thought that they were really doing something more than protecting Epstein's God, which is gold, oil, and drugs. And if they were protecting more than gold, oil, and drugs, the God they serve, then yeah. But all soldiers that have been in the Army, Navy, Air Force, whatever, they're all protecting God. But it ain't my God, you
Right.
know? And it really, once everybody starts to have awakening to that, once all the retired military starts to do their God-given job, what they thought they were called to do, right? To actually kind of protect and kind of serve, right? Like but not protect their God, not protect their, you know, gold, oil, and drugs, because that's their. Hey, Mike, how you doing? They're that's their God. And again, this is a high level war that's going on, and you can be very selfish in it and just say, hey, you know, doesn't have anything to do with me, or you could ignore the existing empire and try to create your own republic, try to create your own license plates, try to create your own, ID cards for this and that. And, quite frankly, no one gives a shit. And all you're doing is pissing off a Roman soldier who has
Right.
a very limited IQ and fuse. So if that's what you want to
Correct.
do,
Hmm.
that's all we've ever seen
Right.
really amount to anything, right?
Right.
Because it's not the proper venue. The proper venue is to really go after and work for the creator entity that gave you the power in the first place, right?
Right.
The potential and the love, not the fear.
Well, why don't I go into my encounter in the courtroom and
Yeah.
explain just how sinister this Roman system truly is. So I'm
I think
sitting in
most
there.
of us know, but you fill us
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. So I'm sitting in there waiting for my turn.
And mind you, you have to wait all the way to the end, right? Because
I had to wait all the way to the end.
you have the nerve enough to
Represent
represent
myself.
yourself.
Pro se.
So, pro se. So they let all of the lawyers, because they're more important to you, go first. Their time's more important. And then
Yeah.
they let all the people who are actually in the corrections, because those more people are more important for you, because
Correct.
they work for the system, right? So they're
Yeah.
all government workers. So the lawyers who are government workers and all of their government workers are more important than you, the actual people. So they're putting the people last. Is that correct?
That is 100% accurate.
Okay, good.
So it was interesting because all of these people that represented themselves, there was not one criminal, not in their testimony, not in the state's version of what they were trying to spin it towards the judge. And it was interesting because this judge was one of the nicest people that you would want to sit in front of. What I mean is this: when somebody was proposed something from the state, let's just say, you know, worst case scenario, but the state's saying, all we need you to do is just plead guilty, pay your $300, and then be on probation for a year, and then serve 2 days at some kind of, charitable thing, community service, whatever you decide. And everybody looks at that and they go, yeah, that seems like a good idea. And then the state says, now, I'm not your lawyer. I don't represent you. I just want you to know what you're saying is. And then they go through this whole list of saying, now it's going to go on your record. It's going to da 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 da. But this can go away. You can get this done, get on with your life, and just whatever. And it just seems like, oh yeah, why not? And then as soon as they get to the point where the judge is in front of them, the judge will try and convince them nicely, mind you, are you sure you want to do this? If you decide to plead guilty, that means this. And so you are going to be restricted for doing this, 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 and this. You are going to have limits on the way you can operate certain areas of your life. And for some people, they couldn't go some places. For others, they couldn't have certain things as they travel with them. And so it was just really interesting because they tried everything to get them to at least say, well, maybe I'm not guilty. Maybe maybe I should try this whole trial thing and see what a panel of peers would have said. Because I'm sitting there going, I wish I could have stood up and said, no, what are you guys doing? Don't do that. Don't say not guilty. Just don't say guilty. Just don't say it. One guy who went up, he said, this guy was an immigrant from some Hispanic culture. I don't know if he was from Mexico or Cuba or someplace like that, but he lives in Florida and he's a truck driver. So he's driving his tractor trailer to a certain facility, and he drives into this facility. Well, this facility requires a search of his person and his vehicle, and they found a corkscrew. That's one of those little corkscrews that go onto a wine bottle, but this corkscrew was different. It had a little tiny knife that comes out the end that pops the cork. And they basically labeled him a criminal because he could not enter into this facility with that device. And this guy, he's like, I didn't know that was in there. I mean, he wasn't even he didn't harm anybody. He didn't commit a crime. He was just driving this needed um, truckload of whatever into this facility just to deliver what they need and then be gone and on with his life. But they
Mm,
found this, arrested him, screwed
mm.
up the rest of his day, probably the rest of his week, and whatever else he had in the truck that he had to deliver. But something interesting happened while he was up there, and he was taking this plea bargain with the state. The state says, "Now, I think it's important at this point, now that you're agreeing to the state's plea, to note that you're not a U.S. citizen. You're a permanent resident, which means he has a green card." But he said, "I just want you to know, by pleading guilty, you could be deported from this." And he just stopped and he's questioning everything, and he thought, Well, that just doesn't seem right. Why would that be right? I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything wrong. I just want to pay the fine and get on with my life. And he goes, yeah, it's fine. I'm a permanent resident. Nothing's going to happen to me. And then the judge comes and nicely says, now, mind you, she's very nice, very courteous, but she reminded him, I have to let you know that you could be deported from this. You could. And he goes, he said, do you have a good attorney in case, they find something or you end up on a list or whatever and they want to deport you? Do you have? And he said, yeah, da, da, da. He went through this whole thing. But he didn't get the grasp that by pleading guilty, he could be deported from this. But he just wanted to pay his $300 and get out of there and just get on with his life.
One of
And
many.
it was so interesting because, I mean, did you want to say something, Adam?
I did. So I want to interrupt you for a
You're
second.
muted, brother.
I'm gonna unmute me. Hold on. Let me pull up my microphone.
I still can't hear you. Muted again. Nope. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Still can't hear you. Can you hear me?
That's so weird.
Give me thumbs up if you can hear me.
Oh, I can hear you fine.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. While Adam fixes that, so it was my turn to go. And I got up and I said, not guilty. And I said all the things that I needed to say. And that niceness turned to, wait, are you sure you don't want an attorney? I think you need an attorney.
Can you hear me?
Even the judge still can't hear you, Adam.
Oh, man.
Yeah, still can't hear you.
Happens for a reason,
I don't know why. So maybe everybody else can, but I can't. So can everybody hear Adam? Give a thumbs up if you can.
Nah, it's all right.
There's
There's something on mic, so it's okay.
I don't even know if they can hear me. Anyways, so anybody's listening, I think Adam can hear me. So the judge, her niceness went from passive to more aggressive. And the whole passive aggressive thing came out. Mike can hear us both. So I guess it's just on my end there, Adam.
So now am I back? Hello? Bo. Reset yourself, Bo. Maybe that's what we got to do. Hold on one second.
Let's try this. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but I'm going to have to, I don't know how to do this. I just can't hear it from my phone for some reason. I can hear it from my computer.
Yeah, just reset from your phone real quick so we don't have this echo.
All right, I'll reset. I'll be right back, everybody.
So Bo is on his way back in. Glad you can hear us, everybody. One of the main things we're going to cover then is, Bo, are you here?
I can hear you.
Okay, so here's what, like, when you start to realize and understand that Epstein said that there's a war where the Jews are against the Christians. Correct, Bo?
I didn't hear that part.
Oh, but it's in text. Yes, yeah. It's in many emails.
Right.
So it is documented, and these things are factual. At this point, we have to be pretty aware of what's happening. And if you're really a Christian and you're one with Christ, if you really are, you have to understand there are no judges in the New Testament. Judges are Jewish. Judges are Old Testament. They are not from our religion. They are not a part of us. And that's, I'm not saying that the New Testament a few times, there were some works where some apostles went to judges. What I'm saying is,
well, Jesus said, judge not, lest you be judged, and with what measure you meet, it will be measured unto you. And also, he mentioned the one time he did mention a judge, he did say that the contentious widow went before an unjust judge. So he clarified that when you go before a judge, you have to recognize who you're going before. And this is how you approach them. And if they don't hear you the first time, go again and again. And in this scenario, she went 3 times. And finally, this unjust judge said, fine, fine, fine. Just give her what she wants. Get her out of my hair. So he showed us how to deal with these unrighteous, unjust judges. So
Yeah,
there
you
you
got
go. Those
to
are the 2 times that I
like
remember judge
spiritually
being.
speaking, it's like true authority, which is Christ's authority, which is God's authority, and it's that internal right and wrong, right? Like you don't need to go to a judge if you know what's right or wrong. Now, are there people that need to be stopped from doing harm?
Of
Absolutely.
course.
Should there be consequences for that?
Sure.
Absolutely. But it's
Mhm.
absolutely, you know, uh, you're right about Matthew, judge not, and you won't be judged. Jesus really reframed that.
Yep.
Um, and the early courts, like in the epistle to the Romans, they were acknowledged, but they were really limited, right? So, and they were not supposed to be sovereigns. They were supposed to be servants, right?
Correct.
They're supposed to serve us. They're supposed to serve the people,
Sneak.
not make the people servants of them. And that's where it is. So that's where we're in the Old Testament here. So you got to realize that church or that religion of Caesar is what you're up against. So again, Lucas, I love you about restoring the republic, but um, you know, we're still in a very old Testament empire currently, where it's a declared war, it's an obvious war, and we've been hypnotized or miseducated again through people like Ghislaine Maxwell's father, through the Pergamon press, through the Rockefellers, all closely related to Epstein, who doesn't just happen to be Jewish. He's the epitome of the Jewish.
Mm.
And quite frankly, says in emails to other Jews that they are at war with the Christians. They are at war with the Muslims. They are at war with the Goyim. That's what they believe we are. And the Old Testament was about God, judges, and nation. The New Testament is about God, consciousness, and individual. It's a completely different type of thing. So instead of here's your ruler, it's here's your responsibility to rule, to live up to your responsibilities, to not do harm, to not, let's say, get into situations that even lead you into those courts. You have to really be self-governed in these. And the Father has entrusted all judgments to the Son. So if the Father's entrusted all judgments to the Son in John 5:22, I mean, you're going to the wrong church if you're going to that court.
Mm.
And the whole thing is just stay out of that court. You have to stay away from it. There's a huge abuse of power. So this woman knowingly leading this man down a cliff, who did he harm? He had a wine opener. Okay, he might have harmed himself if he opened some wine, but we can't get people for predict crimes. He wasn't like holding it at somebody's throat.
I know, and it wasn't. He was trying to explain that it wasn't even like accessible. They had to like dig through his, in trucks where they got that little compartment that some people throw trash, some people throw notes,
Yeah.
some people just throw tools. It's just sitting right in there.
But
Can't
what a
imagine if
piece
he
of
had a.
shit. What a
I
piece
can't. I
of
can't imagine
shit
if he
is the
had
guy who did
a
that.
DeWalt drill or something. They would have said he had a. You know what I mean.
Bro, like what? I mean, you're not going to have a republic with people like that, because they thrive upon the empire. They work for fear. They work for the devil. And, obviously they work for the Old Testament, not for the New Testament. So you got to decide in this world who you are. That's the whole point of this whole thing. Who you work for, who you are, and, make yourself immune to that stuff as much as possible. Sometimes you got to dabble. Sometimes you have to go into their courts when you don't like to, when all else fails. But you have to exhaust all your remedy, and it's a tough one. It's a huge tough one. And
Well, Jesus taught us how to do that too. He said that not only will my law be written on your heart, but I will give you words and wisdom at which your adversaries will not be able to contradict or resist. And so if you're there under righteous reasons and you're not at fault, then what the enemy is trying to do, and what the devil is trying to do, is to get you to acquiesce to his system, because he wants you to be a servant. He wants you to be a slave.
yeah, but
And
what Jesus said was in the book of Matthew, woe to you, teachers of the law, hypocrites. Okay. What he wanted us to do is expose this and give accountability. Okay. So if you have to go in front of them, you hold those judges accountable.
right.
So how do you do that? Because they have judicial immunity.
Right.
Now, we've all seen the bullshit document made by Zadie called
Oh my gosh, I gotta turn this up.
Yeah. It was the judicial notice that there's pieces of it that are true, and there's pieces of it that are applicable.
And
But
for those of you that don't know, Zadie is a nice lady, but oh boy, is she something. She's something.
doesn't matter, dude. What I'm saying is it's not a letter you can depend on. Okay. So again, a lot of the stuff that you're going to find on FreemanBot and a lot of Dave's old works, a lot of everybody's old works. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you just take those as gospel and say, well, this is really what I should do, you're going to be in a whole bunch of pain, most of you, because you have to have the mental fortitude to know when to apply what and where. Okay. So, is there two beautiful things in that judicial notice? There are. So, can you apply them? And if you're wise enough, and if you're intelligent enough, can you, let's say, make the judges accountable, even though they have immunity, right? They have judicial immunity, which is basically the highest form of immunity there is. It's higher than the prosecutors, it's higher than the police. But Jesus himself says, woe to you, teachers of the law, hypocrites, which means he put their misconduct on the public record. Okay. There were no secret meetings. There were no backroom deals. He made it visible, exposure, and accountability. That is the Christian way. That is the way of Christ. It's not make a plea deal, take some secret bargain, or have a woman talk to your face like she's helping you, and then she fucks up your life for the next 20 years.
Dude.
Ain't okay. It's not okay at all what that lady did. Because that guy has every possibility of getting deported now for a wine opener.
He's not going to be the only one. So
now, in the Gospel of John 18:23, during his trial, he said, if I spoke wrongly, testify to it. If rightly, why strike me? Okay, that's a legal objection. He's saying, produce evidence, follow the law. Okay, so that's what you got to do in the Republic. That's what you got to do in the court of Christ. You have to produce the evidence and follow the law. And if they're not, you go back to the first one and hold them accountable. Okay. And that's not just by putting some judicial notice on the record, thinking Zadie nonsense, and then just walk away and thinking everything's done. It don't work. Clear? It don't work. Not that one person it's worked for, ever. It's a cool document if you know how to dissect it and take those two little pieces out of it that can be useful. But you got to use your brain power. You got to actually think about it. Okay? So, in Jesus' case, the trial itself wasn't illegal, right? And he was held at night. There were no proper witnesses. Pre-decided verdict. And Jesus didn't legitimize it. He documented the injustice. Okay? You want your republic back, start documenting the injustice, just not saying, Bo, you saw something there. What happened? Just going to walk away and tell us about it, or are you going to document the injustice? Or you're going to be like everybody else, just walk away and do nothing. Because you're never going to have a republic. You're never going to have, I don't know, you're not going to have Christ unless you do as Christ. Christ says document the injustice. Now, Jesus put the corrupt judges on trial morally, right? Before Pontius Pilate, Jesus flipped the power dynamic. What did he do, Bo? He said, you would have no authority over me unless it were given from above.
Right.
So anytime you're going into court, you got to ask the judge, what authority do you have over me? What authority? Now, some certain cases, if we need to, we can give them the authority. But what right do they have to pull a man out of his truck, get his nail file, and turn him into a criminal that could get him deported to a country he's probably never been to?
Or hasn't been for 40 years. He wasn't young.
Power without righteousness is temporary. And you need to put the judges on trial morally. That's what Jesus says. That's what a Christian says. That's what a Christ does. Now, Paul fought with corruption, right? Now, I don't know about Paul. What do you think about Paul? I don't know. Don't know. I'm not a Paulist. I'm a Christian.
I get it. But Paul
tried to
under
do
the knowledge of Christ, just about turned Julius Caesar into a Christian.
He tried to. He tried to. And
he was pretty doggone close.
But Paul is the master of legal resistance, who eventually got bought out and became a Roman Catholic. And
he didn't create the Catholic Church, but anyways, he created the Protestant Church, whereas some would say Peter created the Catholic Church. But it's interesting because what Julius says, he says, if Paul would have come under another authority, not exactly verbatim, but if he would have come under another authority, Julius would have listened. And what's not being said there is Paul went there his own way. And you can see how many times that angels tried to stop Paul from going to certain places because it wasn't his time. But Paul was adamant. And this is, I think, what we're getting to, Adam. Paul was adamant about doing this because he heard a voice from God. He met Christ himself. And he knew that that's what he had to do. Just like how many people are trying to restart the republic. Like Paul was trying to get himself to Rome because that was his call. But he got there before God wanted him to get there. And he went there without that authority. Even though we preach that he had that authority, yes, we read from a lot of his epistles, but truth be told, you can read through the scriptures and find out for yourself, especially in the book of Acts, that he actually ignored God's leading and he went and did it his way. He ended up in prison, and you know what? We got a lot of letters because of it. But what we don't read is also important, that if he would obeyed and just waited for the right time, I think that something different would have happened. But he went there in his own merits and not the way God wanted him to go. And I think that's what's happening with the Republic. To answer the start of this question, what about the Republic? Is I think people are trying to do this the way Paul did, knowing that God wants us to do it, but the people aren't quite ready for it. But I think what God is doing, just like revival, is he's preparing his people, his children. He's preparing their hearts to be ready for what is about to take place. And what is about to take place? It's going to be a revival like you've never seen before. And when that happens, God doesn't want people in jail. He doesn't want people dead. He doesn't want people that aren't alive to speak this. He wants people who are ready and willing and prepared, have the word of God in their heart, Christ within, ready to be that vessel, ready to be that the temple of the Holy Spirit, to really acknowledge the fact of Christ and what he has done inside of us, because there's a movement that's about ready to take place. And all we have to do is just be patient, keep having venues like this, keep preaching the things that are helping our neighbors and our friends, because what's going to happen when the time comes and that spirit falls and everybody has a choice? Are they going to say yes to it or no? And when everybody says yes, not a lone wolf syndrome where just a group over here, just a group over there, people up north of me saying, hey, you got to be like this kind of republic, and the people down and south of me, you have to be like this kind of republic. The reality is this: we have to come together as a body, the body of Christ, because that's who we are, with Christ as the head. And when we do that with one voice, as one, then we can activate what God has put inside of us to churn the reality of what.
I have
Go
documents
ahead.
that say the nation of Jesus Christ. I have documents say the Republic of Jesus Christ, and I put them on the record.
I'm muted
You know,
again. You're muted.
the
Hold
thing
on.
about it is, look, in the Acts of the Apostles, Paul demanded due process. I don't know why you
Hold on
got
one second.
reverb. I'm holding on.
Let me.
Are you back?
Try that.
All right, you back?
Yeah, I can hear it.
All right. In the Acts of the Apostles, Paul demanded due process, right? He said, is it legal to flog a Roman citizen without trial? That's Acts 22. He forced public apologies, right? Officials had to apologize for illegal arrests in Acts 16. When's the last time that any Roman judicial member or any police officer that you know of has had to apologize for an illegal arrest? Where's the man who arrested the truck driver for a corkscrew? Where's his apology? Where's that judge's apology for being such pieces of shit? It's the thing. So they also appealed to higher court, right? They appealed to Julius.
Yeah.
He didn't just pray, he litigated. So Paul also tried to, like, let's say, negotiate with the Jews or negotiate with the Old Testament a little bit.
Right.
That's why I'm pretty much follow Jesus, not Paul, but it's okay.
Yeah.
He has a place there that you can learn from Paul, but I'm not really Paul. I don't much care for Paul.
Well, it's interesting. Paul said that when he went to go and try and do it the way that he did it when he was a Pharisee, the way that Pharisees ministered their doctrine, he tried to do this in Athens and when he was in Greece, and he tried to speak on mere man's wisdom. And that's what we do when we get in front of a court. We try and use their system. And David may have been good at this, at quoting
Man's law.
UCC codes and all that stuff. And
Mhm.
it didn't work for Bonnie, though. But Paul tried to do that. But then in the book of Acts, it says that he went to Corinth. And when he got there in 1 Corinthians, I think it's in chapter 2, it says that I tried doing this in man's wisdom, but I come to you knowing but anything but Christ and him crucified. And he says, now I'm done speaking on this man's wisdom stuff because I saw what it did my entire profession of being a Pharisee of Pharisees. And now that I'm a Christian, a Christian, like Adam says, and now that Christ is in me, I'm doing this differently. And I'm only going to do what Christ is telling me to do. And it's interesting that he does that because right now, apologetics says, which is the defense of one's faith, and I'm not sure if that's necessary to defend something, because when you defend something, it means you're either hiding something or protecting something. And God needs no protection, and he does not hide. And so why do we need to prepare a defense? That's why I believe Jesus says when when we go before our adversaries, God will give us words and wisdom at which our adversaries will not be able to contradict or resist. And it also says in the New Testament that it's the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit, he teaches us all things and brings things to our remembrance when we need it.
Yeah, it's an interesting to think about, and we all know I've got a spiritual
Definitely.
friend. I'm not going to name his name right now, and he's really strong in his faith. And in some ways, yes, you can be very strong in your faith, but you also have to be strong in your conviction of who
Right.
you are, right? And you still have to tell Satan who you are, right? It's like the power of Christ compels me kind of stuff, you know? It's in there for a reason that you know you need to realize Christ is within, Christ is within, Christ is within, Christ is within, because it says that so much in the scripture. And you really have to bring that out, but at the same time, you have to let them know who you are. And if you're stuck in their system, like if they wrap you in, you don't have a choice. If they grab you off the street like they did you, Bo, or if they grab you off the street like you did that guy, you can't work on prayers alone for a lot of that stuff. You have to really defend yourself and bring the witnesses to court. It's not something that you're going to pray away. And I've seen a lot of people try to
I
pray
get
it
it.
away, and they just get themselves in more difficult situations. So you have to have a very strong faith as well as a very keen mind. Because if you don't have both and you're only resting on your faith and not resting on your mind, um, you can be in a world of hurt, especially when you're going up against, you're going up to Old Testament force. You're going up to a millennia of millennia's, power structure
Mhm.
that is at war with you. So,
That's right.
you have to remember that. And yes, you just don't want to have to get the protection of God when you're behind bars. You just don't want to, yeah, he'll protect you and sure, everything will be fine.
Yeah.
But there's certain situations that you have to use your the brains that the creator did give you, and the work and the hands and putting things together, and not just wait for others to do it or for others to speak out and do something. I mean, Jesus is pretty clear, okay, that we're supposed to speak out for injustice. We're supposed to, he actually, Jesus himself documented it, okay? He says, produce evidence, follow the law, okay? So you follow God's law, but you have to produce the evidence sometimes by their procedures when they pull you into their law. So land, air, water, whatever. It doesn't really friggin' matter. When you get pulled into that nonsense, you're stuck there. If you want to argue some things that are outside of their let's say jurisdiction, which God is, it's a little more difficult. You have to really ask them the questions and make them establish that they don't have any power over you because you don't display any fear, right?
Right.
And usually you don't have any fear when you're prepared and when you have the right things done, because their first thing to do when you get into court and you're in a situation where you have to defend yourself is that they want to make you crazy. We spoke about this before, of having competency affidavits done by doctors with your military service, with your public school system record. How could you be incompetent if their own Roman school system taught you to be a Roman? Well, I'm competent. How did I get this certificate of nonsense otherwise? Right? So when you don't present those things, when you don't present the evidence, that's when you lose. Okay? So you got to come with the evidence. You got to come with, they want you to come with the emotion, right? Because emotion is fear, right? Emotion is always fear based, right? It's a feeling. I personally don't give a shit about your feelings. What I care about is the truth, right? Like that's what you got to be focused on, is that God-based faith of just knowing who you are, knowing who you work for, knowing the whole circumstance, knowing the whole situation. Okay, but
I
that
have
doesn't mean,
I have one testimony to that.
okay,
Adam and I were speaking at a conference, and we went to a certain establishment, and this gentleman helped us. I won't tell you anything about him, but Adam spoke to his situation in a way that this guy and the people that he was working around was not expecting. And at first, I was a little blushed, like, dang, that's a little upfront. And even the manager came while Adam was speaking into this gentleman and in his current circumstance. But at some point, I could feel the love of God pouring out of Adam. And this guy's response to the manager was, I feel what this guy is saying to me is what you guys don't have or have never had enough. And this is what I felt him saying when he said this. So forgive me, he didn't say this verbatim. But I feel love coming from this guy. Even though you guys say you like me, you just cover my current existence and my current situation by lying to me. But this stranger came up, which was Adam, and told me the truth and shared with me how I can help myself to be better. And that
but that's
man
Christ. That's
in
Christ.
front of us,
And that,
I
that,
know.
that woman who was the judge, which a woman should never be a judge, A. B, that woman who came up there, she was not trying to help that guy. She was not trying to love that guy. And she
Yeah.
was pretending, oh, I have your best interest in mind. Blah, blah. And what she was really doing was putting a death sentence on that guy because he's going to end up in like
Right.
Laredo somewhere or Juarez and, you know, with no money, no way to like function. And she just totally destroyed that man's life for a wine opener. It's
Crazy.
horrible, man. It's horrible. It's
Yeah.
horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah.
But thank you for that. I don't even know what you're talking about. But anyways, I'm glad that, and I'm happy and I'm thankful that some people could, you know, get that. But let's talk about the New Testament playbook.
Yeah.
Like going right through it. So one, you have to expose lies publicly. Okay. Like Matthew 23. You got to expose lies publicly. So if you go into court, if you see a person in your church, like the guy that runs it, if he's got a, you know, 501c3 and, you know, whatever, just you got to expose lies publicly. Number two, you have to demand procedure like John. Okay. John 18 says demand procedure. Then number three, you got to strip moral authority, like the Pontius Pilate scene, right?
Yeah.
You got to use legal rights aggressively, like Paul did in Acts, okay? You don't have the right to do that to me. Where do you get your authority to, you know, flog a Roman citizen? You don't have the right to do this to me. Where do you get that right? Where did the Constitution give you the right to, you know, have me deported or, you know, pull me from my car and demand that I'm here for 6 hours and treat me like shit, you know? I mean, you should have yelled at that lady, Bo, and you should have demanded your legal rights aggressively, right? Like, how dare you put these garbage lawyers and these, you know, criminals above me?
Right.
So you got to build parallel systems, okay? Number 5 is to build parallel systems. Okay, that's what I spoke about in the very beginning. You got to build a parallel system. What's the parallel system? Okay, that's your internal knowing. Okay, it's your internal consciousness. It's about you being the sovereign. Okay, you join a group, you join me, you show up at the mastermind, you show up at some trust event. Don't make you a sovereign. Okay. What makes you a sovereign is once you learn something there and you know it, and then you execute it and you live it. Those things are what make you sovereign. So you gotta restructure the church, restructure the schools, restructure all of these things. It says build parallel systems like Corinthians. It's right in Corinthians, right?
Right.
Write a New Testament.
And Jesus
Okay?
and the Sermon on the
This
Mount,
ain't Old
Matthew
Testament
5, 6, and 7.
shit.
Hmm. You know, it's
Because
interesting,
we're not from
Adam.
there.
Jesus, right before he was crucified, he was sitting on this rock and he was sweating blood and he was going through agony. But in
Yeah.
his prayer, he prayed that to the Heavenly Father, not to rescue people from the world or to take the devil away from them, because they are a part of this world that lives parallel to it. Now, in John
Absolutely
15,
is. Yep.
it says that if you were of the world would love its own. Yet because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. And so what Jesus was praying, I can't remember what the place that he was praying, but when he was praying to the Father. He wasn't saying, hey, exempt them from all the stuff that the world has to go through. He was
No,
basically
and
saying, let them
really
go through it
the
because that'll
last point.
strengthen them. It'll fortify who I am to the
Correct.
world because it's me living in them that's showing the rest of the world that, hey, there's something different.
Yeah, and that's what the sixth point is, which is to trust long-term accountability, like
That's
revelation,
good.
right? You have to trust in that, in the long-term accountability of things. You can't just like, hey, but you got to take those actions. I mean, you got to stand up against the injustice and you really
Yeah.
got to call it out, but you also have to trust the long-term accountability because those judges will go before the creator and they will be judged.
That's right.
And
Well, and also, what did Jesus say? And this just is just beautiful. He says, behold, I send you out as sheep amidst wolves. Therefore, be wise as serpents and harmless as doves.
yeah,
It's just he knew that, and we know that. But
yeah.
what do we think that we can exempt ourselves from being a part of the world that we're in, and what Adam's talking about, living parallel to it? We're not going to change the system by just going living our own way,
No,
exempt
but we
from
had a great
everything.
video last week of the auditor, right? So
Right?
listen how this applies for me, okay? So this is
Yeah.
multi-layer. This is
Yeah.
this is completely multi-layer. We've got basically morals, we've got legal, we've got historical, and we got spiritual, right? We got those four things. We got moral, legal, historical, and spiritual. Now,
Yeah.
what I've been doing recently, and what I think we all got to be doing, and even you now, Bo, since you dragged yourself into court for probably like the most, well, we're not even gonna go there, but you're there. So what you got to do, and what I've been doing, and I pulled myself in for stupid reasons too, for money mostly, or for because people need my help. Number one is putting it on the docket. Okay. Number two is documenting the misconduct. Okay. So can you point a finger at her? Hey, I saw you also do this, lady, to that other guy. Appealing upward. So you always want to take it higher and higher and higher. I don't care what you say. Where do you get your authority? Okay. You build parallel remedies. You preserve evidence and you think long term. This isn't about just winning overnight. This isn't about winning right now. Once you get into it, Bo, now you're into it. And this is straight New Testament energy. That's what New Testament is. It's not about being passive. Jesus wasn't passive. This is not reckless. It's strategic righteousness. That's what we're doing here. We're doing strategic righteousness. Okay. So just keep that all in mind that, I think Bo was a little like missing not being in court or something. So he got himself put there. So he was like, Adam, you're in too many courts right now because I got like 3 active cases going and 3 different courts. And Bo couldn't have it. So he had to get himself into court. So now you got to realize you got to do those things. You got to put it on the docket, put the records on. Okay. Document the misconduct, appeal it upwards, build parallel remedies, preserve evidence, and think long term. Okay.
Right.
Strategic righteousness. So, number one thing to be like Jesus is put the misconduct on the public record. It's a Matthew model, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus didn't whisper corruption, did he?
No.
He documented it publicly.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In the book of Matthew, he exposes abuse line by line.
He did.
Now, when you do this in modern times, we do it through motions, we do it through supplements, we do it through affidavits, we do it through judicial notices, we do it through exhibits. Now, Sadie had a nice idea, and I'm glad she opened everybody up to a judicial notice, but you don't use that judicial notice for everything. You create your own judicial notice based on the facts of your case. Okay? So, not that her judicial notice is a bad idea. They're great ideas, but they have to be applied properly. Okay? So, where you don't take this is into social media rants or private emails to the judges or to anybody else. You expose them publicly. Okay? So, here's the rule. If it's not filed, it didn't happen. If it's not on their court of record, if you don't stand up to Satan, if you don't stand up to the devil and say, hey, devil, I'm putting you on the record, here's what you did, it didn't happen. And sometimes I'll even set traps for the devil. I'll be like, okay, let's see if this one is a good one or a bad one. We're going to give him a choice. And I get upset. I'm like, oh, man, I thought everybody was like me and they were the good one, you know? But nope. He proves himself to be the bad one. And I'm like, man, we could have just done this the easy way, just by being righteous, just by being true, just by being harmless. But nope, they want to go the hard way. So if they want to go the hard way, I will take them the hard way. And you got to be prepared to do that, okay? That's what this is all about, okay? You got to demand procedure, right? This is your due process, right? You gotta demand procedure. If you want the republic, okay, it's right up here. You gotta demand the procedure. Nobody's gonna come up and say, here, knock, 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 I'm from the republic. Here's your procedure. No, nobody does that. You have to demand it, okay? In the Acts of the Apostles, Paul constantly asks, is this lawful? Okay? So in the modern, you got to force the courts, right? Where's the hearing? Where's the accountability? Where's the authority? Where's the evidence? Where are those things? Okay? You're not arguing I'm right in any of this. You're asking them questions, and that's all you're doing. Okay?
Right.
And you're always arguing with them that they miss mandatory steps. That's deadly. It's deadly in appeals. That's how you win. That's how we go after these guys in appeals. Okay? Now, you also want to use the higher authority, right? Paul acknowledges government, but limits it. In the Epistle of the Romans 13, rulers are servants, not gods. Not gods. So in the district court, circuit court, Supreme Court, CFC, DOJ, Inspector General, Congress. Did you hear me there? You might not even know what I just said. Well, you need to learn.
Congress.
So you never stay trapped.
Right. That's good.
Someone messes you up in district court, you take it to the circuit court. If someone wrongs you and you tell the circuit court, that bastard down there, he don't belong up here. And then from the circuit court, if they do the same thing, you take it to the Supreme Court. And then you take it to the Court of Federal Claims. You file criminal referrals to the Department of Justice, to the Inspector General's office, to the Congress, to oversight. Okay? That's why y'all lose in court, because you go to the district court, or in your case, Bo, with some state prick with no ears.
Oh my gosh. That was,
Miss whatever her name is. And you get trapped there. You can't just go there. That guy with his thing, I'll accept whatever you say. Okay, I'm out of here. $300. Boom. And the next 20 years of your life, you're screwed because you made a deal with the devil. That's what they were telling you about. Don't make a deal with the devil. You could never sign a backdoor plea bargain that isn't upfront, that everybody knows. You made a deal with the devil, you always lose.
That's good.
Always.
That's good.
That's what they're talking about, making a deal with the devil. That's what this whole thing is about. This is a spiritual thing.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah. And it's important to remember, even though we don't walk even though we walk according to the flesh, we don't war according to it.
Yeah, but
the weapons of our warfare are not carnal.
has an overseer, okay? Corruption does not survive isolation. Appeals to a higher authority. Bop, 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 bop. Everybody's got a boss, right? That's where this go to 3 people, ask 3 people. Because nope, can I speak to your boss? Nope, can I speak to your boss? Nope, can I speak to your boss?
Yeah.
And you keep going higher. You don't just stop.
Well, okay, so here's the thing is, when people get to that courtroom, they're afraid. And there's so much fear that they conform to that system. They conform to the world in a way that makes them feel comfortable.
Never said, I don't like you. It was never a personal beef. What he said was, you violated the law. Okay? Yeah. So that woman violated the law.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Right.
He didn't say we don't not like her. We just say, hey, judge, you're corrupt. I saw you while I was in court. You're the one that wanted me to sit here for this many hours. Why? Because I'm actually the people? Is that why you wanted to show me all this corruption that you just did? The court failed to follow mandatory statutory requirements, right?
Yeah. It was interesting at the end of the whole thing, and I told you this, Adam.
We attacked the process, not the person. Okay.
Right. When I was done, the judge looked at me and winked. She literally winked at me. Huh?
That's what bewitching is. She was trying to bewitch you.
Oh my gosh. It was unreal. I was like, what? Why the heck are you winking at me? If you're thinking that what I'm doing is just and right, why did you dismiss it?
Witches have no place in the high council, man. They're not supposed to be in any type of council type of scenario there. I mean, it's pretty clear. Like, we can go into
it was so manipulative every single time. It was like she would sit there and just question, are you sure you want to do this? And they're like, oh yeah, no, we just want to go with that. We just want to get out of here. We just want to do this, pay the minimum amount. But you're going to be a criminal. Dude, it was crazy. I was like,
yeah, but it had to do with, she knows that cop didn't have any right to do what he did.
Exactly.
So in early days, the Christians created internal courts, right? Now today we do this with FOIA requests. We do this with audits. We do this with investigations. So if it was me and they were coming at me, I'd be investigating the shit out of that cop, right? You go to the media, you got media packets, you got legislative inquiries, you got independent reviews, you got all these things that you can do. So even if court A ignores you, court B can't. You have to make multiple records to preserve the truth. Okay? Now, appeal is the ultimate accountability, right? This is the revelation model. In the book of Revelations, corrupt rulers are exposed, right? Everything surfaces. In the modern version, you preserve evidence for long term because judges retire, prosecutors move, politicians change, files reopen. Truth outlives positions. Patience is power. So don't get impatient on any of this stuff. You keep going. And, you know, you got to put these issues before the court, you know, and really make sure that it's not about you, because you weren't in court about anything like about you. You had no intent. There was no harm. They didn't prove it. Yep. They didn't approve any intent. They have to prove intent. If your affidavit says I didn't intend to do this or harm anybody, it's impossible to even get a conviction unless it's illegal.
And he knew that. He knew that.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And it was funny because off record, he said 2 things. One, he came up with a separate plea deal than what the state was willing to do. The prosecutor.
That's the devil.
And and that's what they do. And then secondly, He said, you have so many constitutional rights backing you to help you in your position. And then we got before the judge. He said, you know what? We said this off record, but I'm going to put it on the record just because this is what we decided that, was one of the options. And I
That's
said,
good of you.
it's
You got to
interesting
do
that you
it.
just brought that back on the record because I
Mhm.
want to bring into the record what you said to me in private beforehand. And that was, I agree that there are a lot of constitutional rights backing me in this situation. And he got flushed
Yep.
and he didn't speak the rest of the time. He knew that everything that he said, everything he did, that's going to be used against him and it's
Yeah,
going
but
to
you
go in
should
my
just
favor.
never stop asking. You got to ask him a bunch of times there. You
Yeah,
got to
you're
ask
right.
harder. Be more aggressive.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Well,
I
I
think you
got
bring.
a portion of scripture here from Romans. Speaking of Romans, this is Paul writing to the Romans that were part of the system that created everything that we are in right now. This is the church that was very difficult to minister to because they know how tetrarchal and overarching the Roman rule was back then. But this is what Paul wrote to
Back
the
then?
Romans. Oh, yeah, even back then, dude, it was crazy. The Romans ruled the world, bro. Like they built that huge wall not to protect anybody between Britain and the Roman Empire, only to take the what were they, the Scots and the Irish and the Brits and the European people,
Yeah, I get it,
only
bro.
to
But they're
tax them
still
to
here,
come in.
brother.
They
They've
taxed the
never left.
hell out of them. What's that?
Mhm. They've never left.
Yeah, I know. I know. They just expanded their empire. They changed their name. They changed the faces. They called themselves this and that. But here's what Paul wrote. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable and what is the perfect will of God. And that's Romans 12, verse 2. And
Mhm.
that's what we're doing. We're transforming our minds. We're renewing our minds by transforming our mind, not according to the system, but according to what is good, according to Christ, and according to what Paul, uh, Jesus himself, Peter, James, John, Mark, Luke, his brother Jude, his half brother James, all of these people gave testimony of who Christ was for them and how Christ
Yeah,
changed their
bro, bro,
life
bro.
and
Let's
what
break
that
this.
meant.
Let's
And
break
that's
this
what it means
down.
to be to renew your mind, to be
Mhm.
transformed by renewing your mind, not according to the world, but according to Christ.
Yeah, but let's bring this down, okay?
Well, it was
So
hard for a Roman to do that
yeah,
because they
but
were all enslaved to that system.
again, you're getting way off path and think that Roman is something different, okay? So what you have to understand is the basics of the word, what a raw man is, okay? It's a raw man, okay? They've changed the language a little bit. And in Judaism, okay, unlike the Egyptian religion, it's still Ra. Okay. So when they say Amen, that's to Ra. Okay. So it's Amen Ra. And Ra comes from, and even in the Hebrew Bible and the Torah, it's evil actions. So a Ra man is an evil man, it's an evil mind. That's what a raw man is, because you guys don't even know what the frick you're talking about. Like Romans, we're Julius Caesar. We're not following Romans. It's
Mm,
raw man.
sure.
Man is the mind. Ra is the evil. It's the fear. So you don't give your kids to the raw mans.
Right.
That's the Hebrew. That's why it's there. Okay, it's not some guys in soldier outfits that are in this movie 300. Okay, that's something created by Julius to distract you and make you think something different. So, and even in the Torah, Ra is used as evil actions, injustice, harmful outcomes, moral corruption, and calamity. That's what it is. So you got to think really hard about giving your kids
To the Ramans.
to the Caesar, because then they're going to come
Caesar.
back Ramans. Yeah. They're going to
Right.
come back with evil minds because that's what they're being taught. So
Right.
how you win over the Republic is by the letter to the Ramans. Yeah, you got to send letters to the Ramans, right? You got to, you know, it basically means morally corrupt at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah.
And for an example of this, in the book of Isaiah 45:7, I form light and create darkness. I make peace and create Ra. Okay. They're telling you already what a Raman is, or a Roman. Okay. Of course, none of this language that we're even speaking, it's all Babel. None of it came from that. It all came from Hebrew. So you got to get to, you know, evil's a choice, not a being. It's not a person. It's not an actual soldier wearing some like stupid Spartan costume. Okay. That's not what it is. So you got to really use your mens here and not be a raw mens, and, you know, work from no.
Right.
Okay. So humans have free will.
Well, you literally just
And evil comes from
emphasized what I
choice.
quoted out of Romans 12.
Correct. But
Yep.
that's why it's there, but that's not what it means.
Yeah, I
Meaning,
get it.
you
But
gotta-
so what you're
you gotta
saying is
look
when we send our
deeper.
kids to school, we're conforming them
Yes.
to this world. And their mind is being transformed according to the world system and the Roman system, Roman system,
evil.
whichever you want to call it.
Yes.
Yep.
The evil, which is no God, or the evil God, which is Ra. And life is all about choosing which one rules you. The inclination towards evil or the inclination toward good. And that's it.
Yeah.
And, you know, don't be confused. Don't be confused.
Yeah.
So the Judaism Ra is evil and bad. Okay. It's not necessarily to be confused with the Egyptian Ra, the sun god, but maybe there's more to it than meets the eye.
I'm sure there is.
You know, I wasn't there. I don't know, but I do know that those words are facts in their Jewish language that they still use now. So, you know, if you're thinking about it in terms of what happened, you're looking at Ra is corrupt judgment. It's false testimony, right? Like this guy had a can opener. Oppression. Okay. That's what that is. Abuse of power. Unjust courts. So that's where all these Romans come from. So you got to wrap your head around that a little bit and come from a little bit of truth. And, you know, evil is very practical. It's not mystical, you know? It's all about systems and behaviors and choices, right? What do you want to be? You want to be a ramen? I don't. It's a choice.
I don't want my kids to be Romans either. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you go into because we're warring, you got to know the enemy, right? So when you go into their Kabbalistic philosophy, even it's Ra is actually the absence of light. It's the absence of good. It's misalignment with God's order. So a Raman is actually a misalignment of God's order in your mind. And when you say those guys work for Julius Caesar and give it to Caesar, and you think you got to pay taxes to Caesar, which is the government, that's the absence of light. It's misalignments with God's order. It's, you know, the absence of all things good. That's the truth, man. Like that's where you got where we're all missing it, you know? So Ra evil, harm, wrongdoing. Okay? So it's about accountability, not mythology. It's not about, some shit you've seen in some movies. It's about the real Roman soldiers who are here now, the Ramen. They're here now everywhere. They surround us, they chase us, they hunt us. It's the abuse of authority. It's the ignoring of the law. It's the hiding of the truth. It's the corrupt systems. It's the lack of accountability. Okay? It's not magic. It's not destiny. It's human choices. So you want the Republic? You asked for it, Lucas. It's your choice. With that being said, love you all, and we'll see you next week.
Love y'all. Later, Adam.